disturbing facts that will probably disturb you even if you're not easily disturbed. Part 33. Genghis Khan would marry off a daughter to the king of an allied nation, and then he would assign his new son-in-law to military duty in the Mongol Wars while his daughter took over the rule. Most son-in-laws died during combat, giving his daughters complete control of these nations. And all my dad gave me was an F-150 as my first car and undying love and acceptance. Javier Bardem's performance as Anton in No Country for Old Men was named the most realistic depiction of a psychopath by an independent group of psychologists in the Journal of Forensic Science. I mean, just that haircut alone screams psychopath to me. Also, does he not look just like Jeffrey Dean Morgan? I swear to God, they're the same person. Persian king Aga Muhammad Khan once ordered the execution of 2 servants for being too loud. Since it was a holy day, he postponed their execution by a day and made the servants return to their duties. The servants subsequently murdered the king in his sleep that night. And they were like, nah, you ain't getting us, homie. Apes do not ask questions. While apes can learn sign language and communicate using it, they've never attempted to learn new knowledge by asking humans or other apes. They don't seem to realize that other entities can know things that they don't. It's a concept that separates mankind from apes. Although, if we're being honest, I think a lot of people on the internet did not fully evolve because there are some people that are absolutely not willing to learn. In Forrest Gump, when his microphone is cut off at the rally, what you don't hear him say is sometimes when people go to Vietnam, they go home to their mamas without any legs. Sometimes they don't go home at all. That's a bad thing. That's all I have to say about that. I didn't watch Forrest Gump until I was like in my late 20s, and I always thought that it was a comedy because people always kind of made fun of it, like, I love you, Jenny. And it was not a comedy. It was one of the best movies of all time. After Martin Luther King was killed in 1968, his funeral was held at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and a small group of current students were chosen to be the ushers for his funeral. One of those ushers was Samuel L. Jackson. After Beethoven went deaf, he found that he could affix a metal rod to his piano and bite down on it while he played, enabling him to hear perfectly through vibrations in his jawbone. This process is called bone conduction. And if that's not the best example of where there's a will, there's a way, I don't know what is. Playboy once featured a short story about heterosexual men being persecuted in a world where homosexuality was the norm. In response to angry letters that were received, Hefner wrote, "If it was wrong to persecute heterosexuals in a homosexual society, then the reverse was wrong too." Seth MacFarlane, aka the creator of Family Guy, American Dad, The Cleveland Show, was scheduled to be on the flight that hit the North Tower on 9/11 but barely missed boarding it because of a hangover and a mistake by his travel agent. I sincerely hope that he gave that travel agent a raise. There is a theory called the big lie. It's the idea that governments can get away with lies of extreme magnitude because people will refuse to believe that they are being lied to about such a large event. The former CEO and owner of Segway died from riding a Segway off a cliff. And if rumors are true, then it was intentional. In Nazi concentration camps, the children who were still healthy enough to move around played. In one camp, they played a game called Tickling the Corpse. At another, they dared one another to touch the electric fence, and they also played Gas Chamber, a game in which they threw rocks into a pit and screamed the sounds of people dying. Children are a product of their environment. Candace Newmaker was a child that was killed during a 70-minute attachment therapy session purported to treat reactive attachment disorder. The treatment, during which Candace was suffocated, included a rebirthing script which led to her suffocation. I've done some research on this particular therapy method, and it's torture, basically. Like, they smother the kid in like pillows and blankets, and then when they're like getting to the point where they're panicking and can't breathe, then they like let them get out, and it's supposed to be like rebirthing. It's called child abuse. When a 44-year-old man from France started experiencing weakness in his leg, he went to the hospital, as you should, unless it's America. You don't have free healthcare. That's when doctors told him that he was missing 90% of his brain. The man's skull was full of liquid, with just a thin layer of brain tissue left. The condition is known as hydrocephalus, and they did an IQ test, and he had an IQ of 84, which is below average, so he was not a very sharp, quick-witted guy, but he was very socially adept and did not have any issues mingling with regular society. You think that's crazy? I've spoken to quite a few people on the internet that are walking around with not even 10% of their brain, walking around with nothing in their big empty heads. It's a miracle they can even speak. Thanks for watching.